Coming up, the trade war between the United States and China continues to escalate this morning. We will have the latest. Former Defense Secretary Robert Gates gives his thoughts on the 2020 presidential race. And we'll have a preview of the upcoming Democratic gubernatorial debate that you'll be able to see right here on WYMT later this week.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6:31 on Monday, May the 13th. I'm Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning in to Mountain News this morning. Well, it is a soggy start to your Monday, and some of you might find it a little bit chilly, but it was a great night to have the windows open, and as Brandon will tell you, it could continue for the next couple days. Let's bring Brandon in and he'll give you a better rundown. Brandon, good morning.
Good morning, and you're right. It could be a little bit of a nice start to the morning unless you had some rain overnight. If you left those windows open, you probably were hurting just a little bit. But this morning, we'll take a look at UVA-wise. We'll take one more look at the time lapse there, and you can see a little bit of fog, a little bit of rain, and now some clouds rolling through there this morning. Mountain Parkway, a little bit of fog drifting in that way up at Slade and Powell County. So again, be careful this morning. Line pinpoint Doppler radar, a lot of moisture still in the air, but not a lot of it reaching the ground. As you can see, just a few specks of green here and there back across the region. Temperatures in the 50s area-wide, with the exception of Danville at 48. The high temperature, 55, Middlesboro and Jacksboro statewide. 40s and 50s all the way around. The warmest temperature in the region, 57 in the Tri-Cities. Forecast today, only 61, mainly cloudy, maybe a scattered chance for a passing shower as we head through the day. Maybe also a few peaks of sunshine as well. Full forecast on the way here in just a few minutes. Will?
All right, Brian, appreciate it. Still no break in the trade war between the United States and China this morning. President Trump is touting the benefits of boosting tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports. Beijing, meanwhile, is expected to fight back. John Lawrence has more.
President Trump not backing down to Beijing.
What I'm doing now with China should have happened many years ago, not just Obama, long before Obama.
In a tweet Sunday, the president saying, "We are right where we want to be with China."
The Chinese economy is under pressure as a result of these tariffs. If Chinese goods are more expensive, it's less likely they'll export goods to the United States at the same rate.
But China won't be footing most of the bill for U.S. tariffs.
American consumers are already paying. They just don't really know. It's kind of a stealth tax. But it's going to become a very obvious tax not too far from now if this continues.
President Trump's economic advisor Larry Kudlow admitted as much when asked if U.S. consumers would feel some of the effect.
Fair enough. In fact, both sides will pay. Both sides will pay in these things.
The Chinese say they will take necessary countermeasures to the tariff hike. President Trump doesn't seem concerned. In another Sunday tweet, he said, China loves ripping off America.
The question is, when President Trump encounters President Xi Jinping in Japan at the G20 next month, can we get at least a trade war ceasefire?
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Now, Kudlow confirms no additional discussions with the Chinese are on the agenda, but he did say Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin have been invited to China for more talks. Now, the battle over the Mueller report is heating up yet again. The Democrats are still calling for Special Counsel Robert Mueller to testify on Capitol Hill. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jared Nadler said he would subpoena Mueller if necessary. Meanwhile, Republican House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said on CBS's Face the Nation, it's time to close the book on the Mueller report.
That had 40 attorneys, FBI agents, went to different countries, and they found no evidence. So don't you think it's time to move forward?
Meanwhile, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff says Democrats are considering fining Trump officials who defy subpoenas up to $25,000 a day. Now, former Defense Secretary Robert Gates also appeared on Face the Nation Sunday morning. Gates gave his remarks on age being problematic in the 2020 presidential election.
But I think having a president who is somebody our age or older, in the case of Senator Sanders, I think it's problematic. I think that you don't have the kind of energy that I think is required to be president. I'm not sure you have the intellectual acuity that you might have had in your 60s. So, I mean, it's just a personal view. For me, the thought of taking on those responsibilities at this point in my life would be pretty daunting.
The argument.
Meanwhile, Senator Rand Paul appeared on ABC's This Week yesterday. The Republican senator discussed the FISA court and on Congress investigating the president's personal finances.
The primary underlying constitutional issue here is whether or not the FISA court, which is supposed to spy on foreigners, which has a lower constitutional standard, can you use the FISA court to spy on a presidential campaign? Can you use the FISA court to seek information about Americans?
Well, Vice President Mike Pence was in Virginia this weekend. He gave the commencement address at Liberty University. The vice president discussed a number of topics, including on how attacks on worshipers must stop.
In the last few months, we've seen unspeakable attacks on people of faith, on Jewish synagogues in Pennsylvania and California, on mosques in New Zealand, Christian churches in Sri Lanka, and on 3 historically black churches in Louisiana. No one should ever fear for their safety in a place of worship, and these attacks on people of faith must stop.
Well, in other national news this morning, despite a subpoena, former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning has no plans to testify before a new federal grand jury. Manning previously served 7 years for giving thousands of classified government documents to WikiLeaks. She spent 62 days behind bars because she refused to testify before a previous grand jury.
Well, they're asking this. They've already stipulated they want to ask the same questions. So this is not about anything new. They're not even asking anything. They're not even asking anything new. I've already laid all of this out.
Now, Manning is required to appear in court once more Thursday. The Department of Homeland Security is asking the military for help dealing with the influx of migrants. 2 administration officials tell CNN the request includes tents for large numbers of people. The request, delivered to the Pentagon Friday night, came as Customs and Border Protection predicted it would surpass 500,000 migrants crossing the border so far this fiscal year. Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan is considering the Homeland Security's request. Meanwhile, thousands of mothers and children took to the streets of London Sunday over inaction on climate change. The protest was organized by the group Mothers Rise Up and was led by a group of 11-year-olds to represent the 11 years that the United Nations has set to tackle global warming. Many others attending the march said they were concerned about their children's future. The protest march began near Hyde Park Corner and ended at Parliament Square. Several dozen people threw stones at mosques and Muslim-owned stores, and a local man was beaten in the town of Chilaw on Sri Lanka's west coast on Sunday in a dispute that started on Facebook, sources told Reuters. 3 weeks ago, Islamist bombers blew themselves up in 4 hotels and 3 churches, killing more than 250 people. Since then, Muslim groups say they have received dozens of complaints from across the country about people being harassed. Well, let's get back here at home. We are nearing the home stretch in the primary campaign for Kentucky governor. 4 Democrats and 3 Republicans are vying for their respective parties' nomination. On Wednesday, WYMT will take part in the Kentucky debate between the 4 Democratic candidates, including current Attorney General Andy Beshear, former State Auditor Adam Edlin, House Minority Leader Rodney Atkins, and Jeff Young. On the Republican ballot, Governor Matt Bevin faces a primary challenge from 3 competitors: State Representative Robert Goforth, William Woods, and Ike Lawrence. Now, you can see the Democratic debate Wednesday night at 7 right here on WYMT. We did invite the Republican candidates. However, Governor Bevin and Robert Goforth both declined. More than 6 dozen recruits reported to the Kentucky State Police Training Academy in Frankfort Sunday to see if they have what it takes to join the Thin Gray Line. The cadets represent 42 different counties throughout the Commonwealth. 1 is from Tennessee. 4 have military experience. Almost all of them are men, but there is 1 woman. The class is scheduled to graduate this October. Since reporting yesterday afternoon, there have been 2 resignations. Something to note for you this morning. This week is National Police Officer Memorial Week. Many departments will travel to the National Law Enforcement Memorial in Washington, D.C. to pay tribute to fallen officers. Well, it's 6:40. Brandon's been waiting patiently over on the weather wall, so let's toss it over to the one-day-old birthday boy. Brandon.
Listen, 36 is looking pretty good so far. Let's take a look at the satellite radar for the last little bit, and you can see things have been pretty quiet. A little bit of rain overnight for the most part, and we're going to continue to see that trend as we head through the morning hours back and forth. As we go to Pikeville Medical Center this morning, you can see kind of a dreary start over there this morning across the hills there. Some clouds, a little bit of fog on those ridge tops, but again, one of those days which can be back and forth. Temperatures, we're going to see those in the 50s this morning area-wide, with the exception of Danville there at 48. A little extra on the coffee meter just because it's Monday, but temperature-wise, it's a normal day out there. Out the door forecast for you this morning, we are going to see temperatures climb into the low 60s only, so a very mild and very much below average day for this May the 13th. Will?
All righty, Brandon. Thank you, sir. Well, we'll have stories that are trending on WYMT.com next. As always, thank you for joining us right here on Mountain News this morning. Our neighbors to the west were eating good yesterday. We will take you to a yearly tradition out in Owensboro. And later, how doctors in Britain used a genetically modified virus to help beat back a chronic infection.